Is North India stealing from South India? South Indian states pay more taxes to the center and get less in return compared to North Indian states. Here's some data for you. For every 100 rupees of direct tax Karnataka pays to the center, the state receives 13.9 rupees. But in North India, for the same 100 rupees of tax, UP gets back 333 rupees and Bihar gets back 922 rupees. Why is there an inequality of taxation? Is the center secretly favoring North India? And how does all of this affect us, the average citizens? Like, what is happening to all this tax we are paying, bro? To answer these questions, we need some context. India today is the fastest growing economy and home to 1.4 billion people. Never in human history before have so many people lived in one democratic nation, which means you can't just Google how to keep 1.4 billion people happy and write a Twitter thread on it. But the question is, how did India get to this moment? Let me take you back in time. Before the British, India, the land, was just a bunch of kingdoms fighting amongst themselves. It was during the British rule that people of all these kingdoms and states put away all their differences to fight a common enemy. And later, these same states united together to form our country today, that is India. To always remind us of this, B.R. Ambedkar writes in the Article 1 of the Indian Constitution, not 2, 3 or 10, Article 1 states that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. So, India is not just one country, but a union of different states coming together. And that is where the problem arises. When you have so many different states, how do you tax people and how much of this tax money do you share with the states so all of India can have good growth, electricity, and enough development so 75 years later, we all can watch IPLs and support our local teams. So again, B.R. Ambedkar stepped in and created a financial commission whose sole job was to figure out how the collected tax should be shared amongst the states to lead to India's development as a nation. So as of today, the center receives tax in two ways. That's direct and indirect tax. Direct tax is basically income tax, which is tax on your salaries, property, capital gains, etc. Then there's corporate tax, that is tax on the income of the company. Indirect taxes, you have GST, that's a goods and services tax, which is charged at every stage of production and distribution. In fact, there's GST on every level. There's central GST, state or union GST, and integrated GST, which is charged by central government on intra-state transactions. Now, once the center has collected all of these taxes, the Finance Commission needs to figure out how to share this money amongst all the states. Now, think of Finance Commission as the parents of a family who need to distribute pocket money to all their children, which are these 28 different states and 8 union territories. The 15th Finance Commission, that's the current parents, have decided to split the tax revenue using this formula. The majority, that is 45%, is allocated to something called the income distance. Now, what is income distance and how is money shared using this? Let me explain. Income distance is the difference in per capita income between a specific state and the national average. Here's an example for you guys.
और मेरे बच्चों कितनी सैलरी मिली इस महीने?
बाबा मैंने 2000 रुपए कमाए।
वेरी गुड बेटा।
बाबा मैंने पूरे 10,000 रुपए कमाए।
क्या बात है। चलो अब मैं तुम दोनों की सैलरी कर दूंगा ऐड। 10 और 2 कितने होते हैं? 12,000। ठीक है, अब तुम 2 जन हो तो इसका एवरेज होगा कितना? 6,000 रुपए। ठीक है,
ये क्यों कर रहे हो?
बेटा पॉकेट मनी कैलकुलेट कर रहा हूँ, तुम लोग रुको 2 मिनट। अब देखो एवरेज यानी कि 6,000 के हिसाब से चिंटू को थोड़ी कम सैलरी मिली है, तो चिंटू को मिलेगी थोड़ी सी ज्यादा पॉकेट मनी और तुझे मिलेगी थोड़ी सी कम बेटा। ठीक है, सॉरी। चलो एंजॉय द डे।
पापा सबसे बेस्ट हो।
क्या बेस्ट हो? ये क्या गलत लॉजिक है पापा?
And the same logic applies to the states here as well. That is, when the average income of a state is less than the average income across country, that state gets more money from the collected taxes. Here, PIN 2 or the higher income states feel a little bit cheated because they are generating more revenue, they are paying more tax, and the tax is going to these lower revenue states. By the way, guys, I recommend you not to be like any of these kids. Why, you may ask? Watch this.
छोटू इधर आ रे।
जी साहब।
एक चाय लेके आ फटाफट।
ठीक है।
ये ले पैसे।
तो बहुत ज्यादा पैसा है साहब।
टिप समझ के रख ले यार। चल फटाफट लेके आ चाय।
ठीक है। ये भाई इतना पैसा कहाँ से आया रे?
अमीरों वाली स्कीम हाथ लगी है।
क्या?
फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट पे पूरे 4% का रिटर्न मिल रहा है।
12% स्टेबल रिटर्न तो अपना मोबिक्विक एक्स्ट्रा पे मिल रहा है।
क्या बात कर रहा है?
हाँ, और सारे रिटर्न को आप उनकी ऐप पे ट्रैक कर सकते हो। और बता, तेरे पैसे को सिर्फ 200 से 500 क्रेडिट वर्दी लोगों को दिया जाएगा, तो द रिटर्न्स आर लेस वोलेटाइल एंड मोर स्टेबल।
अरे यार, लेकिन मेरे पैसे तो एफडी में फंसे हैं यार।
बट वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है ना यार, बिकॉज यू कैन स्टार्ट योर इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑन मोबीक्विक एक्स्ट्रा व्हिच इज 1000 रुपीज, और कोई विड्रॉ चार्जेस भी नहीं है, तो जब मन चाहे निकाल लो।
अरे भाई, ये तो मस्त है।
मोबीक्विक एक्स्ट्रा पे कोई रजिस्ट्रेशन फी भी नहीं है, और 100% लोगों को 12% का रिटर्न मिला है। 12% का।
वो सब तो ठीक है, ये मोबीक्विक ऐप मिलेगा कहाँ?
लिंक इन डिस्क्रिप्शन से ऐप डाउनलोड करो एंड स्टार्ट योर इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी टुडे।
So now that you know the best way to invest your next salary, let's get back to the video. So some South Indian politicians have asked that why are we paying for the development of North Indian states? The North Indian leaders argue that this is fair because most of the development that we see in South India is thanks to North Indian and Northeastern labor, and even though big companies file their taxes in Mumbai, they are making profits from all across India. But the South Indian leaders responded to this by asking, why are South Indian states able to get more done, not just in terms of GDP, but with the literacy rate, infant mortality rate, and lesser funds? Why can't Bihar and UP achieve the same thing with more funds? In fact, Bihar has the lowest literacy rate in India, and 62% primary students do not even complete their education there.
So, Mr. Reddy, here's a maths quiz for you. What is 5 minus 5?
Let me check with my scientific calculator. That will be 0.00, sir.
Wow, that's amazing!
All credit goes to our literacy rate, huh? Hey, सुरेश, नहीं, यहाँ देखो, इधर।
कैमरा।
हाँ। अब तेरे लिए एक मैथ्स क्विज है, हाँ? तेरे पास 5 भटूरे हैं। 5 मैं खा गया।
खा गए।
तेरे पास क्या बचा?
छोले।
कुछ नहीं हो सकता तेरा भाई।
लगता है लेने चले गए।
भैया अचार ले आना साथ में।
This is the reason behind Tamil Nadu's finance minister saying it's not the money that we begrudge. You know, we live in one country, we want everybody to grow. It's the lack of progress. It's like throwing money down a well. What is happening that this money is not able to achieve outcomes? South Indian leaders claim they're more than happy to redistribute wealth as long as that wealth results in development. Now let's look at the second factor that determines tax revenue sharing on the graph. That is population. So as you can see, 15% is dedicated to population. So states with more populations get a higher share. The Finance Commission has changed the weightage allocated to population from 27.5% to 15% recently. Now this ideally should make the South Indian states feel more represented because now the tax is less dependent on population of the state because South Indian states have lesser population compared to North Indian states. But that is not the case here. So the previous Finance Commission allotted 27.5% weightage to population because it was following the population data of both 1971 and 2011. Out of that 27.5%, 17.5% was for 1971 and 10% was for 2011. But the 15th Finance Commission changed this to 15% overall entirely based on 2011 census data. The 1971 census data wasn't even taken into consideration here and they only looked at 2011. This really upset the South Indian states. You must be like, why? What is the problem here? The problem is the 42nd Amendment. Now, what is 42nd Amendment? Let's go back to history. So in 1975, India was facing several economic problems, below average rainfall, low food production, an international oil crisis, and inflation was at an all-time high. India was under a lot of pressure from other nations to curb its population. Some nations even threatened to cut off funding and favors if this population continued to grow at this alarming rate. So Indira Gandhi was like, okay, we need to fix this. What she did was, she urged Indian states to control population growth and offered incentives such as paying almost a month's salary for sterilizations. Sterilization is basically a surgical procedure, either tuberculotomy in women or vasectomy in men, basically after which men and women cannot biologically reproduce. In Kerala, people were paid up to a month's salary to get this surgery done, and in UP, more extreme incentives were imposed, like withholding teachers' salaries till they got the surgery done.
और मनोज, कैसा चल रहा है?
कैसा क्या चल रहा है? बेकार चल रहा है। टीडीएस लगा दिया सरकार अभी।
हाँ यार, ये टीडीएस से तो हम सख्त खिलाफ हैं कसम
इतना
से।
दर्द होता है यार।
हाँ भाई, दर्द तो मतलब बहुत होता है यार, सही में।
और जबरदस्ती का है सब कुछ।
1 तारीख को काट लिए, बताओ।
तुम्हारा भी एक को काट।
तुम्हारा भी 1 को काटा?
वही तो।
अरे यार,
बट क्या कर सकते हैं, सरकार है।
सरकार और देश की भलाई के लिए ही कर रहे हैं, देश आगे जाएगा। ठीक, मतलब पर मतलब चलो ठीक है, 5,000 ही कटा, कट के भी 50 में से। ठीक,
50 में से 5। कौन से टीडीएस की बात कर रहे हैं भाई?
अरे टैक्स डिडक्टेड एट सोर्स यार। तो तुम कौन से टीडीएस की बात कर रहे हो बे?
टेस्टिकल डिडक्टेड बाय स्टेट।
हाय राम, सरकार ना। चलो कोई नहीं, तुम्हारा वैसे भी वंश आगे नहीं बढ़ने वाला था दोस्त। ठीक है।
It finally spiraled into forced surgeries or sterilizations in some areas where people were literally loaded into buses and forcefully sterilized. Now, this population control also started putting the state leaders in panic because they were like, wait, we are taking all these measures to reduce the population, but once we succeed, we are going to receive less tax funds because our population is less. That does not make sense. So to calm these state leaders, Indira Gandhi mentioned in the 42nd Amendment that we will take the 1971 population data while considering population for allocating tax funds. Because of this amendment, many South Indian states made effective measures and controlled their population as they knew it would not affect their tax revenue largely. So now when the 15th Finance Commission comes in place and starts using only 2011 census data and ditched the 1971 data, South Indian leaders were upset. One more concern that the South Indian states have is the lower number of seats in the Lok Sabha because of their lower population, leading to lesser representation in the center. This also creates a perverse incentive for states with higher populations to maintain or increase their population in order to hold more power in the Lok Sabha and punishes South Indian states for curbing their population growth. An argument can be made of assigning more seats to South Indian states in the Rajya Sabha, but that still leaves the South Indian faction underrepresented when it comes to passing money bill and passing no confidence vote. But well, that is the definition of democracy, power to the people. If a state has more people, they'll have more representation regardless of their literacy rate or economic situation. Now, this is the conundrum, right? Like, what does this mean for South Indian states? Will South keep losing money paying for North India's development? Will North India increase its population and keep taking more money? And is the center favoring North Indian states because that's where the votes are? That actually may not be the case, and let me tell you why. Now, all these are very juicy ideas for the press and media, but the Finance Commission has actually made a deliberate effort to reward progress and development for the states in South India as well, and that's what I'll be taking you through now. Now look at this new segment in the graph, the demographic, performance and tax effort. The recent weightage additions of 12.5% for demographic performance and 2.5% for tax effort to revenue sharing formula will favor developed states like South Indian states. Now, because demographic performance is based on factors such as fertility rates, mortality rates, literacy rates, and access to healthcare, South Indian states will rank better when you consider these factors. This 12.5% weightage on demographic rewards population control, development, and creates incentive for South Indian states to keep up their performance. Now, I know tax effort currently has very little weightage, but it's still a step forward in rewarding South India and other states for their ability to collect larger amounts of tax and incentivizing other states to collect more tax. The Finance Commission's goal is to balance incentives among all states. They want to incentivize developed states to improve their ability to raise money and ensure equal distribution of this money to the economically weaker or developing states. Because if these states won't help the lower developed states, then who will? The debate of North versus South will continue, and Finance Commission will do their best to manage expectations and keep everyone satisfied. The Indian government is also currently in the process of appointing the next Finance Commission, that's the 16th Finance Commission. And at the end of 2023, we will get to see a new tax sharing formula. Now, will the South be satisfied with the new formula? Will it widen the financial divide between North or South India? Will it make things better or worse? Time will tell. See, it's by no means an easy task to manage the expectations of 1.4 billion people. But we also, as educated citizens, should be aware of the complex nature of these decisions before jumping to conclusions or being swayed by media. This is the only reason why we make these videos, so that we can keep you informed about what's happening in the world in the most simple and fun ways, and you can keep taking better decisions. So if you want to keep learning and stay up to date, then please subscribe to AevyTV and stay tuned for more such content. Also, don't forget, download the MobiKwik app from the link in description to begin your investment journey. MobiKwik Extra has partnered with RBI licensed NBFCs to lend your money to credit-worthy individuals. Your interest gets credited every day and you can track your money and grow daily with the MobiKwik app.